government of sleaze and scandal, and Labour MPs know it. I'll be interested to see how many of them actually stand up to defend their government. Mr. Speaker, the British public, and especially the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, deserve that for once the Prime Minister be straight and honest with us. He must immediately do three things. As I said earlier, Mr. Speaker, he must apologise to the victims of Jeffrey Epstein.
The Madison scandal, a diplomatic disaster. Right then, before we dive into what might be the most damaging diplomatic appointment scandal in recent British political history, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you'll want to be notified when we break down the next Westminster bombshell, because frankly, they're coming thick and fast these days. Picture this. You're the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, tasked with appointing the most crucial diplomatic position in your government's arsenal, the Ambassador to the United States. The special relationship hangs in the balance. Trade deals worth billions on the line, and you need someone who embodies British excellence on the world stage. So naturally, you choose a man who tells Financial Times journalists to F*** off when asked about his connections to one of history's most notorious child sex offenders. Brilliant strategy, that. Welcome back to UK Connors, where we don't just report the news, we dissect the sheer audacity of it all. I'm your host, and today we're unpacking the Peter Mandelson appointment scandal that has left Westminster reeling and Downing Street scrambling for damage control. If you're not already subscribed, what are you waiting for? We're the only channel brave enough to call out this government spectacular misjudgments week after week. Let's be absolutely crystal clear about what we're dealing with here. This isn't some minor administrative oversight or a case of unfortunate timing. According to multiple members of Parliament, Keir Starmer knew from day one that Lord Peter Mandelson maintained a friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. Not suspected it, not heard rumors about it, knew it, and yet he proceeded to hand him the keys to Britain's most important embassy as if nothing had happened. The gravity of this decision becomes even more staggering when you consider the timeline. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't some mysterious figure lurking in the shadows. He was convicted in Florida in 2008 for sex crimes against 14-year-old girls. That's not ancient history. That's common knowledge that any competent vetting process should have flagged immediately. But here's where it gets properly scandalous. The vetting didn't fail. It was apparently told to ignore the obvious red flags. Before we continue dismantling this diplomatic disaster, make sure you're subscribed because this story has more twists than a John le Carre novel, and we'll be following every sordid detail as it unfolds. Stephen Flynn, with a kind of righteous indignation that Westminster rarely witnesses, laid it out in terms so stark they should have made every government minister squirm in their seats. The Prime Minister, he declared, chose to ignore facts that were plainly in front of him, not for days, not for weeks, but for months. Think about that for a moment. Months of knowing, months of deliberating, months of having every opportunity to reconsider. And yet Starmer pressed ahead with an appointment that would inevitably explode in his face. The Commons erupted when Flynn pointed out the sheer hypocrisy of selecting someone who had earlier that year told a journalist to F*** off simply for asking legitimate questions about his Epstein connections. This is the man chosen to represent British diplomatic excellence to our most important ally. The irony would be laughable if it weren't so deeply damaging to Britain's international standing. What makes this even more extraordinary is the context in which Flynn delivered these devastating critiques. The Deputy Speaker had to intervene to remind MPs that children were watching from the visitors' gallery, urging members to keep our language tempered. The symbolism couldn't be more perfect. Here's a debate about connections to a convicted child sex offender being moderated because actual children were present. You couldn't script irony this potent. The Conservative response has been equally damning, and that should tell you everything about how catastrophically this has backfired. Sir David Davis, no stranger to political warfare, launched an emergency debate specifically to expose the circumstances of this appointment. When even your political opponents are calling for transparency about your decision-making process, you know you've crossed a line that shouldn't have been crossed. Davis pulled no punches, stating that the appointment had diminished the Prime Minister's reputation. Coming from a former Brexit secretary who has seen his share of political scandals, that's not criticism, that's a political obituary being read in real time. If you're enjoying this deep dive into Westminster's latest catastrophe, hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments what you think Starmer's endgame is here. Because frankly, We're all trying to work out the political logic behind such a spectacularly tone-deaf decision. Liz Saville-Roberts from Plaid Cymru delivered perhaps the most cutting assessment of all, pointing out that the Prime Minister had staked his special relationship with the U.S. President on the diplomatic abilities of an ambassador who had a unique bond with the most infamous child sex offender in the world. That sentence alone should have ended careers, but in modern British politics, it apparently just gets filed under awkward questions we'd rather not answer. The international implications are staggering. Here's Britain, trying to rebuild its global influence post-Brexit, trying to strengthen ties with America under a new administration, and we send someone whose background immediately raises questions about judgment, propriety, and basic diplomatic competence. Every foreign ministry in the world is now asking the same question. What were they thinking? Dame Emily Thornberry, chairing the Foreign Affairs Committee, revealed perhaps the most damning detail of all. Lord Mandelsson was invited to appear before her committee prior to his appointment, standard procedure for such significant roles, and he simply refused to show up. Let that sink in. A man being considered for Britain's most important ambassadorial position couldn't be bothered to face parliamentary scrutiny. The arrogance is breathtaking. Thornberry's questions cut to the heart of the vetting scandal. Professional civil servants routinely face delays or rejection for far lesser concerns, having studied abroad, being born in Belfast, or being married to someone from Iran. Yet somehow, maintaining a friendship with Jeffrey Epstein wasn't considered disqualifying. The double standard isn't just hypocritical, it's insulting to every public servant who has been held to higher standards. Before we reach our conclusion, make sure you're subscribed because we'll be tracking every twist in the scandal as it develops, and trust me, there will be more revelations. The Cabinet Office questions are particularly explosive. Did they overlook Mandelson's Epstein connections, or were they instructed to ignore them? Both possibilities are damning, but in different ways. If it was oversight, it represents institutional incompetence on a scale that should trigger resignations. If it was deliberate, it suggests a level of political cynicism that treats national security and diplomatic reputation as expendable commodities. What emerges from all this is a picture of a government so detached from basic political common sense that it genuinely believed appointing someone with Epstein connections would somehow fly under the radar. In an age of social media scrutiny and 24-hour news cycles, that level of political naivety borders on the surreal. The international ramifications will be felt for years. Every diplomatic initiative, every trade negotiation, every attempt to project British soft power will now carry the asterisk of this appointment. Foreign governments will question not just our judgment, but our basic understanding of diplomatic propriety. That's damage that outlaws governments and haunts nations. This scandal perfectly encapsulates everything wrong with modern British politics. The arrogance, the tone deafness, the assumption that standards apply to everyone except the political elite. It's a masterclass in how to torpedo your own credibility while somehow believing you're being clever. So there you have it, the Mandelsson appointment scandal in all its spectacular, reputation-destroying glory. A case study in how to turn a diplomatic opportunity into an international embarrassment, and a stark reminder that in politics, as in life, your associations matter. Make sure you're subscribed to UK Connors, because if this government keeps making decisions like this, we'll have enough material to last the entire parliamentary term. Until next time, this has been your deep dive into Westminster's latest act of political self-immolation.